Hi there, it's Melinda with Boss Mare Shearing, coming to you again from the U-Haul. Today I'm coming to you from the Ohio Turnpike. I spent the day up in Hudson, Ohio with Amy, working in the warehouse, getting ready for our next Fiber Festival, which would be Dallas-Fort Worth. Rearranging some of the stuff that we had at Michigan, talking about what worked, what didn't work, you know, how we want to go into the rest of the fiber season, because everything is quick succession after Dallas, so there's not much time to revamp anything. So we're preparing for our hostile takeover of the woolly world. That being said, I did finally do my first professional class. I did Wild Wonderful Wool at the Pittsburgh Creative Arts Festival last weekend. It was a small class. I had 5 students. But I feel like I info dumped on them, but they had really good reviews. They were very thankful. They said they learned an extreme amount, which is what I was going for. And the ladies at the registration table thanked me for coming, said that they had great reviews already, and they asked if I would come back next year. So maybe I can do this part. So I guess I'm a teacher. That's originally what I started to go to school for, was to be an ag educator. So I guess it's still kind of, it comes around. It comes around. It's fine. So today for sheep school, I wanted to talk about 2 things. One, we're going to talk about some superwash and what superwash really is, because there's a little bit of a soapbox moment for this. And now that my blue coat leaked in the car, and I stopped at Sheets before I got on the turnpike and realized it's leaking. So that's what's on my fingers. I didn't get a bruise. It's blue coat. It's Farm Girl Manicure, okay? But I want to talk about superwash. So superwash makes it very interesting for people to machine wash and dry woolen items, okay? That's the long and the short of it. How it does that is the fiber is either chemically, either way, it's chemically processed. So it's either done with a chlorinated additive to degrade the scales of the cuticle of the wool fiber, or it's treated with a polymer so it smooths out the scales. And what that does is, when it's in the washer with the hot water and the soap, the scales slide over each other instead of locking and felting. So that's how we can machine wash woolen items, is if they're superwashed. That being said, we all know my stance on acrylic. I'm gonna put it right here. Okay, my big thing is, and my little soapbox is, I grew up going to Washington County Fair. And if you guys don't know where Washington County Fair is, Google map it. Washington County Fair in Washington, Pennsylvania. The zip code is 15301. It is literally in the backyard of Waste Management's Washington County landfill. And every year I used to see how much taller that landfill got. And that's just my county. That's how much trash and garbage and waste is being built in my county. It's gone up probably 4 or 5 tiers. Now, tiers are like 20 foot tall, and I couldn't even tell you how big the actual, dump is. But that really got me thinking a couple years ago of how much we waste. So acrylic's great, don't get me wrong. If that's your price bracket, that's your price bracket. It does come in a lot of other textures and color tones and stuff like that natural fibers can't get you. I totally get that. But you have to think about the last time you went to Goodwill or any thrift store. How many of those acrylic Afghans did you see hanging up there? Nobody's passing those down. Nobody's holding on to those. So they're in the thrift store, and if somebody takes them and either uses them as blankets or, takes them apart and repurposes that yarn, cool. How many of those blankets do you think ended up in the trash? How many of those blankets that your great aunt, your grandma, your great grandma, whatever, made and now are sitting in a trash bag in Washington County dump? okay? At least if it was a woolen product, it would eventually biodegrade, right? So I'm trying very slowly. I know I'm only one person, but I'm trying to reduce my carbon footprint. Because, I'm out here, I'm traveling, and I'm seeing less and less farmland, less and less forested areas, and more excess. So that's my little soapbox about it. So back to Superwash. So Superwash, while it's cool, I'm guilty of purchasing it myself. While I was at the Pittsburgh Creative Arts Festival, I did my normal. I zoomed through, checked everything out, and then double backed and investigated some stuff that caught my eye. I did buy 2 sock sets of Superwash yarn, and that's because it's cute, okay? One was this Grape Expectations, I'm going to put it right up here, this Grape Expectations self-striping yarn from Hinkston Handmade. It just jumped right in my hand. I couldn't even stop it. I walked into the booth, saw it, and it fell right off the peg hook and right into my hand, like right there. That's my excuse, and I'm running with it. And I was showing Dwayne when I got home. I'm like, look, I throw it, and it just goes right back in my hand. It had to come home. The other one was one I couldn't pass up because, one, it was made by Knitz, which is a local yarn store to Pittsburgh. And it's a colorway called 1933. It's a black and gold colorway, so it's a Steeler colorway. Now, I'm going to make me and my mom matching shorty socks with that, since there's enough to make 2 pair of shorty socks and there's 2 mini skeins, so I haven't decided if I'm going to do 1 pair of socks with the black contrasting heel and toe and 1 with the yellow, or do mixy-matchy so we really match the whole way around. But, again, guilty of buying Superwash because the indie dyers that we all know and love all buy Superwash yarn. Now, there was one that I did point out to my students while I was in my class, Byrds, which is the ladies in the RV. They have beautiful stuff. Oh, it's so squishy. And they lean more towards like the heavy jewel tones. So I like going in there because it's pretty. Everybody's doing the neon vomit and stuff, or the weird colorways. Sometimes you just want a plain jewel tone colorway. But they had out front, and it's a vendor I've seen before, but I didn't realize what she was actually making, it's called Ashling Yarns. Her logo is this little rainbow colored sheep with the curly cues. She does Blueface Leicester non-superwash self-striping sock kits. There was this Union Jack pattern that I eyeballed real hard, and now I'm having FOMO about. I know she's going to be at one of the vendor shows coming up because I might have stalked her page, and I'm really hoping she still has one of those by the time I meet back up with her, because the FOMO is real on that one. But again, I'm just as guilty as everybody else. Now, the reason we've all kind of been conditioned for the Superwash is, one, it's Superwash, I can throw it in the washer. And 2, again, all of the indie dyers buy the same sock blanks. So they're buying these already skeined up, pre-made Superwash, non-dyed, plain white skeins in bulk. Now, where do those come from? That's the better question. Most of them are coming from China or Australia. So, again, great that you're supporting your local yarn store or your local indie dyer. Boo on them for not using something American. Now, after I researched a little bit, I did find out that the Hinkston Handmade that I got is Superwash, but it is U.S. sourced. So the sheep were grown in the United States, they were sheared in the United States, it was milled in the United States, and it was dyed by her here in the United States. So that one is a little higher up on my, hey, you should purchase from here than anywhere else. Now, Superwash is what it is. My other thing is, I like to knit. First off, I knit like iron tight. I get yelled at a lot for that. Amy hates how tight I knit. So I always have to go up 2 or 3 needle sizes so I can get gauge right. But when you do superwash, you're, again, that cuticle is degraded and smooth. So one of the pictures that I got that brought me great joy is this photo. I really did use this in a presentation at a public event. Now, can anybody tell me which one is the superwash and which one is the natural fiber? The top one, the more phallic of the two, is actually a non-superwash yarn. So the cuticle and the scales are still intact, and they're able to hold on to each other, and they have a little bit more of that memory and that core to them to keep that structure. So I knit a lot of outerwear, so socks, hats, gloves, mittens. I don't do finger holes. Towels, things like that. And I want them to have that more built up so they're not all drapey around my face. Now, I'm starting to lean more towards the non-superwash sock yarn because I don't like when my socks slouch. And the superwash socks, even though I'm casting on only somewhere between 56 and 58, depending on the pattern, they're still getting slouchy by the end of the day because that superwash just doesn't have the memory. So it's a little bit more flaccid. So there's reasons for both. I get it. But, think about your project and what you're doing. Do you really need that drape? Do you need it to be washable? Okay, these are things that I'm trying to help people think about. Okay, so the other thing is we talked a lot about colorways. So the indie dyers kind of have the market cornered on that. I get it. Cool. That's not my jam. I've watched a ton of dyeing videos. That looks like way too much science for me. Okay, I am a humble sheep shearer, okay? I don't have time to do that much math in the off season. Now, I'm not doing self-striping or variegations or anything like that, but, maybe some whole tones, okay, we might be able to make that work. There's just a lot of math and science that goes into that seems a little bit past my forte, okay? But we talked about a bunch of different breeds while I was in class too, and how micron structure doesn't always count for what the breed is. So one of the breeds with the most variegation to it is the Shetland Sheep, okay? And I say that today because we have a new run of Shetland DK that's coming with us to some of the newer festivals, and it's a beautiful gradient. Now, these are natural fibers, not dyed. They've just been sorted out to get these colors. Now, Shetlands are a short-tail primitive breed. So you can normally tell the primitive breeds because they don't have the long dangly tail. They've got that little goat tail that still hangs down. But the Shetland comes in 30 different colors, between undertones and overtones and patches, and they're literally a rainbow from, as Amy said, as long as it's a very dull rainbow of any color of black, white, gray, and brown. But think of the variegations you can have in that. So I took a sneak peek, and I'm gonna post the picture up here. These are we either have 4 or 5 shades. I think there might be a brown, because that last one's more of a black. There might be a brown hidden in there. I don't remember. But look at that variegation. That's all one breed of sheep. So Shetlands also have the most variegation up and down of microns. So they can be super fine or they can be super coarse. It just depends on that particular flock and genetics. I pulled out a fleece at my class that up front in the neck area of this Moritz Shetland, which is my favorite color, that caramely colored brown is just chef's kiss for me. Anyway, sorry, ADD. And I've had way too much caffeine today, if you couldn't tell. But that Moritz color is just Anyway, but the fleece I pulled out, I call it my problem child fleece. The front up towards the shoulder and the neck, super fine, very tight crimp, about a 5-ish inch staple length. Okay, it's beautiful. It could rival the chunk of merino I had. Like, we could have put them side by side and they would have had a hard time telling them apart. But on the hip, in that britchy area, it was almost an 8, almost 9-inch staple length and had that double overcoat to it. And it was very coarse and very thick. So, that was just on one sheep. We went from one extreme to the other. So, it literally, if you look at the Shave 'em to Save 'em PDF profile of a Shetland sheep, they say literally it can be anywhere from 20 to 30 microns, with the average being about 23, with a staple length of anywhere between 2 and 9 inches. And literally, one of the phrases they say on there, you can find a Shetland fleece to fit any project you're working on. I was gonna try and source some Shetland fingering weight to try and make socks with. I think I have a Shetland cow. I use it as a demo. It's the Morit with the natural white sheepy print on it. I put it on my table all the time. This one. Yeah. But, so, don't knock anything, one, because of microns. Don't want you to knock that, because there's variety in everything, and the micron structure does not mean everything. That super fine merino is great for something close, like a wool bikini, which is a real thing. Found them, you can buy them. I thought about it. I don't know if Dwayne would be okay with me wearing a wool bikini. He said, that might stink. Anyway. But, close wear, yes, 100% super fine. But would I make superwash merino mittens to go to the barn in? No, they're not going to hold up. Would I make, mittens out of like a worsted weight Jacob or Shetland? Absolutely. They're gonna hang up to like me pushing round bales and everything like that. But so doing a little bit of fiber school instead of sheep school today, but it's fine. There was a little bit of sheep school in there. So lots of PIP stuff going on today. Next weekend, no, not next weekend, weekend after, please, I would love to have a cheering squad. I'm going to keep begging until next week. But I would love to have a cheering squad at the Ligonier Highland Games. Come watch your favorite shearer get angry and throw heavy things. My goal is to flip the caber without pulling my shoulder again, because last year I really screwed up my shoulder and it took a couple months for it to come back. But that's all I want to do. I just want to flip that damn caber, because it's a new caber. We had to retire the old one. We had a ceremony. We burnt the damn thing. It was like a send-off. It was like... Okay. Actually, it was bagpipe music, so same thing. But, again, would love to have a cheering squad. And if you guys want some sheepy videos, here at the end, I'm going to show you what those girls did in the patch that they were in and how much of the grass they ate this week. I mean, they mowed it all the way down except for what they couldn't reach. So, there's that, and I'll see you guys next week. Okay, bye! So this is the area they were in. They ate everything that they could possibly reach in about 7 days and cleared out this whole chunk. And now we flipped them over and they've got this big whole chunk to do next.